Greetings and welcome back to Eye of the Beholder, where we review Dungeons & Dragons miniatures created by WOTC and WizKids from 2003 through 2023. We are in the middle of reviewing miniatures for creatures native to the Feywild. In this video, we'll be looking at one specific type, so heat up those cauldrons and come on in. Boil, boil, toil and trouble! Hags are the witches of the Feywild, full of wickedness and malevolence. Most creatures of the Feywild are beautiful, hags ain't. They actually emphasize their hideousness by wearing ragged clothing, blackening their teeth, covering themselves in refuge, etc. They are terrifying in combat and duplicitous in bargaining, so be forewarned, you could end up on the menu. The Ennis Hag made its first appearance in 1983's Monster Manual 2 First Edition. By far the largest of the hags, and unlike their sisters, are muscular rather than frail. Don't let the size fool you though, they are just as intelligent as their sisters, and prefer to let ogres, trolls, and giants under their sway soften the party up before coming in for the coup de grace.
We get our only Ennis Hag miniatures in 2018's Waterdeep Dragon Heist set. Actually, we get two. They are identical with the exception of the first holding a rock in her left hand, while the second appears to be casting lightning bolt. The minis are appropriately brawny, particularly the back and shoulders. Paint is well done with purple for the skin under a tan tunic. The clothing could be dirtier, but cool touch on the twin antelope skulls mounted on the shoulders. Score: Paint 21, Pose 23, Playability 18, Pizzazz 20, for a score of 82.
Pure hags, also referred to as white, blue, or winter hags, are the wicked witches of the frozen wasteland. They are capable of bringing overpowering cold weather onto communities to revel in the death and destruction it causes. This control of cold weather serves them well in combat, surrounding themselves with snow and wind during an encounter.
So, do we get a Bure Hag in the Snowbound or Icewind Dale sets? Don't be silly. From 2019's Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage, we get our only one, along with an invisible version. Wrong set notwithstanding, this is an excellent mini. Immediately the eyes are drawn to the elongated blue arms, one hand reaching out while the other clutches her powerful gray staff. Grinning maniacally under black eyes and white hair, her dark cloak with gray wash perfectly offsetting her look. Arctic setting or not, score 100.
Very close cousins of the Bure Hags, the Howling Hags roam the windswept northern plains of Faerun. Like Bure Hags, they can also control their environment, leaning more into gale force winds and freezing rains. They have all the contemptible qualities of their sisters, taking particular glee in preying upon unwary travelers like, the PCs.
WotC gives us our only Howling Hag mini in 2008's Dungeons of Dread set. Pose definitely has her howling into a headwind, mouth wide agape, while the wind whips her hair and brown clothing back. Gripping her gray staff in both hands while leaning into the wind, this mini is solid if not spectacular as the previous one. Score: Paint 17, Pose 15, Playability 17, Pizzazz 16, for a score of 65.
Green hags are the most common of the hags, generally lairing in swamps and riverlands. Like all of their kind, they revel in the corrupt and profane, oftentimes disguising themselves as simple folk to sow destruction where they can. In their true form, they appear to be the most frail, their green skin covered in warts and blemishes.
Our first Green Hag mini appears in WizKids' first set, 2014's Tyranny of Dragons, and it looks unfinished. Her long white hair over black robes is not particularly detailed, and don't get me started on those facial features. Pose standing slightly stooped forward with arms outstretched and black claws visible, It's a usable mini, if not particularly well done. Score: Paint 13, Pose 11, Playability 13, Pizzazz 9, for a score of 46. WizKids' second Green Hag Mini is much better. From 2020's Fangs and Talons set, this rare miniature is pretty cool. Pose holding what looks like a human heart in one hand and a basket containing a skull, among other things, in the other, she is obviously in mid-spell or perhaps an unclean ritual. The white hair is long and flowing, front and back, with a dark wash to capture detailing. And this is what a hag's face should look like, a combination of crazy and evil. Score: Paint 19, Pose 22, Playability 17, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 83. Nanny Poo Poo is a green hag and sole inhabitant of the village of Mabala for the simple reason that she ate all the other inhabitants. Her miniature, from 2017's Tomb of Annihilation set, depicts her per the book art, an old wizened crone stooped over a walking stick. All a ruse, of course. Nanny Poo Poo is an insanely powerful spellcaster, and her walking stick is doubtlessly a magical staff. With its nondescript color palette of browns and grays, this mini can easily be used as a villager, shopkeep, or other mundane NPC. Score: Paint 13, Pose 12, Playability 15, Pizzazz 14, for a score of 54. Our next named Green Hag Mini is Mother Lorinda from WizKids' 2022 set Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Her frail appearance belays her strength. She is a Dark Lord in the domain of Tempest. Posed sitting cross-legged while clutching a trio of dolls, she seems to be reaching out with her other hand, perhaps receiving alms from a supplicant. Not sure what the translucent crown is, possibly a spell effect. Fun fact: she is rarely seen without her daughter, a homunculus called the Manifestation of Lores that we reviewed in our Construct videos. Score: Paint 13, Pose 15, Playability 13, Pizzazz 17, for a score of 58.
Night hags dwell in the lower planes and basically take all the evilness and awfulness of the hag race and turn it up to 11. As denizens of the lower planes, they have also taken on many aspects of the devils and demons they often conspire with and against. Truly psychotic, those weaker than them are considered food or slaves. Those stronger are subtly manipulated and weakened until they become, well, food or slaves. Before we review the night hags, let's talk about the dusk hag, offsprings of night hags, and I do not want to contemplate how that happens. They are weaker than night hags, but not to be underestimated.
Our only dusk hag miniature comes from 2020's Eberron Rising from the Last War set. The mini is an exact match for the artwork, hunched over while moving forward, one hand raised to her lips, fingers pressed against them in the classic shh gesture. Covered in a black robe down to her bare feet, notice the curled horns on her head. Perhaps dusk hags are created by an unholy union between hag and devil. Damn it, I said I didn't want to think about that. Score: Paint 13, Pose 13, Playability 12, Pizzazz 12, for a score of 50. WOTC gives us our first night hag in 2006's War Drum set. Wearing more revealing clothing than her sisters, the midnight blue of her skin shows clearly in the face, arms, and exposed leg. Hair is nicely detailed, tied at the end with a leather strap with a skull-shaped clasp on one side. The aggressive pose makes this a solid early version. Score: Paint 14, Pose 18, Playability 15, pizzazz 19 for a score of 66. WizKids' first Night Hag mini comes in 2016 Storm King's Thunder set. As a rare, you expect a great sculpt with outstanding paint, and WizKids actually delivers. Pose confidently striding forward with the body slightly turned to the right as if she's circling her prey. Her outfit is striking, blood red dress festooned with various charms and jewelry. Love the hair as well, held back at the forehead with golden clips, with black braids and golden ringlets worked into it as well. Score: paint 25, pose 23, playability 23, pizzazz 25 for a score of 96. Our next Night Hag from 2020's Mythic Odyssey of Theros set is a major step down. However, it is a common, so much easier to get. Just think, get 3 of these and recreate the Stygian witches scene from Clash of the Titans. You know, the Harryhausen version, not the crappy remake. Clad in standard black robes, WizKids does try to give the robes a starry pattern with a bit of speckling. Score: paint 13, pose 12, playability 16, pizzazz 12 for a score of 53. We actually get 2 Night Hags in 2020, this one from the Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden set. And this one is even better than the Storm King's Thunder mini, posed way more aggressively, hair and clothing swirling about while holding her staff low to one side as she casts a spell at a hapless foe. Her attire is far more detailed as well. Note the bone-decorated belt at her waist along with the tan wrappings on her feet. I said it was better, so how can the score not be 100? Mad Maggie is a Night Hag and Warlord of the Knucklebones Gang of Avernus. So of course her miniature comes to us from 2019's Baldar's Gate Descent into Avernus set. Clad in a red tunic and matching pantaloons, lots of interesting details on this mini, from the genie sandals on her feet to the white headdress that looks like a piece of vertebrae. Caught in mid-spell, the pose has her pointing at her target with her right hand while the spell begins to manifest in the left. Cool bit of translucent for the spell effect. Also cool, she's generally accompanied by her bodyguard, Mickey the Flesh Golem, who we reviewed in the Golem video a couple months back. Score: paint 18, pose 20, playability 20, pizzazz 23, for a score of 81.
The saying, if looks could kill, literally applies to sea hags. By far the most repulsive of the hags, they can actually kill low-level creatures who gaze upon their gruesome visage, providing a convenient meal for the hag. They lair in large bodies of water and prey upon all who use her waterway. Their favorite tactic is to attack from ambush, killing or stunning its prey before taking it below the waves to devour.
Our first sea hag comes from 2017's Monster Menagerie 2. Barely clad in a rotting skirt and top, she is posed leaning forward with brown hair pulled back from her grotesque face to hammer her target with the full force of her appearance. Standing almost zombie-like, the blue skin is a clear giveaway of her true nature. Score: paint 13, pose 14, playability 14, pizzazz 14, for a score of 55. Even though these 2 miniatures come from 2 different sets, I'm going to review them together because they're basically the same. The more upright one is from 2021's Snowbound set, the crouching one from 2023's Seas and Shores. Both appear to be clad only in a brown skirt, their toplessness covered by careful hair placement. Both poses fully display their gruesomeness. Interesting fact, one is rare and the other is uncommon. Guess which is which? Score: paint 14, pose 17, playability 14, pizzazz 16, for a score of 61. Maud Chiselbone is a variant of Sea Hag. She's a lake hag. Her miniature from 2021's Snowbound set is unique in that it comes with a separate accessory, her brass cauldron, with translucent white smoke rising above a bubbling green potion, or, based on her mini, stew. Maud stands over the cauldron holding what looks like a rope of small intestines, presumably about to add it to the boiling mix. Completely covered in a brown dress with high white collar, we only see the green of her skin on her arms and her very detailed face. Score: Paint 16, Pose 15, Playability 15, Pizzazz 24, for a score of 70.
The final three hag miniatures we're going to cover as a group: Skabatha Nightshade, Bavlorna Brightstraw, and Enduin Moongrave make up the three hags of the Hourglass Coven that took control of the domain of Prismeer in the Feywild. All three miniatures come from the WizKids 2021 set, The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and we'll be basing our playability score on the assumption the party is adventuring in said realm.
Skabatha, also known as Granny Nightshade, is the oldest and appears to be a green hag. Black petticoats under a red dress under a gray apron make for a pretty big medium mini. Note a couple of very important details that WizKids nails. First, as part toy, she has a golden wind-up key in her back. Second, she is known to be missing one eye. Look closely and you'll see the empty eye socket. Finally, she is able to fly through the air on her magical rocking horse, Sugar Lump. The mini detaches at the waist and a separate lower body is provided that can then be mounted on Sugar Lump. Score: Paint 22, Pose 25, Playability 20, Pizzazz 23, for a score of 90. Bavlorna, also known as Slack-Jawed Lorna, is the middle sister, and based on her extremely long limbs, I believe is a Buer hag. She appears to be the most feral of the three, covered in brown and white rags while clutching a staff festooned with crystals and fetishes. Also, note the several little critters crawling on and around her. She calls these her Lornlings. Although she rarely leaves her home, when she does, she travels on this floating lily pad. The clear base on the mini can be removed so she can be set atop it. Score: Paint 23, Pose 23, Playability 20, Pizzazz 22, for a score of 88. Endelyn, also known as Creeping Lyn, is the youngest. And with her 6 arms, I have no clue what type of hag she is. Other than said arms, her entire body is completely covered in a black dress with gray spines that give the impression of spider legs. Even her face is covered in a translucent veil. A master puppeteer, she performs shows within the body of the dress. Note the yellow area in the middle. You can actually see a puppet there. She also has the coolest method of transport, this toy bird ornithopter mini that she can be mounted on via the removable clear stand. Score: Paint 25, Pose 25, Playability 20, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 95.
And with that, another class of Feywild inhabitants is finished. We'll be going from the hideous to the beautiful when we review the race of Eladrins the next time. Until next time, thanks as always for watching Eye of the Beholder. Leave a like or comment if you please.